Well, I forgot to put the intro. Hi, Rob Browne here with you on this Monday morning. Looking for a lot to talk about today. A lot of football played over the weekend. Some of it really bad football. And I think the fans are going to start having less and less patience with their coaches, their programs, teams, whatever. Because you think about what people are being asked to pay to go to the games. Then you got to pay to get the really good seats, and then you got to pay for this NIL. Okay, and then you got to worry and have anxiety the minute the last game of the season is over for how many of these guys are going to hit the transfer portal button. So we're going to talk about this today. People, if the kids are going to just leave at the drop of a hat, maybe fans ought to start leaving at the drop of a hat, start boycotting the games. You know what? Maybe that'll get the attention of these people that think that these student athletes are these poor, downtrodden kids that just, oh, woe is me. It is time, way past time, people begin to, speak up and just tell it like it is, because you watch a lot of bad football over the weekend. And I saw some really bad football. And you think about the fans of schools who are paying to support this garbage we call a football. I mean, if you can't have more than 23 yards passing in a Division I football game, that's Auburn. After 3 quarters, you could do that in elementary school in Pop Warner ball. I mean, how do you do that? But I saw the Arkansas Mississippi State game. That set football back 10, 15 years. Now, we all have to go back to 2008, the Auburn Mississippi State game, that 3-2 thriller. What an embarrassment that was. That was horrible. Well, I'm already getting people texting me and saying, I'm getting the feel that Auburn Mississippi State Saturday could be another 3-2. I mean, you've got Mississippi State. We'll talk with Mitch about it. That's coaching malpractice, what they've done to Will Rogers. If I mean, God bless him. He's the son of a coach. He's a great kid, it looks like. But I'd be madder than a wet hen if I were him. And they did to me what they've done to him in that offense. So, look, a lot to talk about. We're here 25 days a month, at least over 300 shows a year. Sidelines.live. Catch us. Always follow us on Twitter at sidelines_live. And, bottom line, again, Mitch, I said this before you logged in, that fans are hit 3 times. You got to buy your season tickets, okay? Then you got to pay money to get the good seats, scholarships and all. They're asking for that. Now they're coming to you and asking you for NIL. Never mind if you've got a kid in college yourself and you're paying that price, because it ain't cheap. The money that's being loaned out, the colleges go, the federal government's just pouring money out. We'll just keep raising tuition. It leads to some pretty pissed off fans out there when their programs aren't doing well. And the coach is making $6 or $7 million a year. And then he's not, I mean, Mitch, I'm fired up this morning. Who's in the bullpen warming up for that Auburn Mississippi State thriller? That ought to be on PBS.
Rob, you fired up? Never seen you fired up, But Rob, it's always good to come on here. It's Auburn week. It's an exciting week for both Mississippi State and Auburn. I heard you talking a little bit about the offense for Auburn. Here's the thing: y'all meaning Auburn, have got to give Hugh Freeze a chance to
No,
get his guys in there because
but
he is playing with some terrible players right now. And Coach Freeze is a winner. He's going to end up winning there. It's just a matter of getting his players in there, getting his system in there. He's got a bunch of guys that Brian Harsin recruited that just aren't good football players. It is what it is. But I'm excited to get over there. I know it's going to be an ugly game. I've been looking forward to this trip for the last 3 months now. I feel like that's all I've talked about is getting over to Auburn for my first time. So it should be a really fun. I've got a hotel booked in Montgomery, but the hotel prices are dropping in Auburn. So we might be making a last second, maybe Wednesday or Thursday decision to try to stay in Auburn and try to really get that full atmosphere, if the hotel prices keep dropping the way that they are.
well, it could happen. But the one thing that gets me about Hugh Freeze, what got him this far in his coaching career is his play calling. He's great at that. And I understand he inherited a mess, but one player that was recruited in Harsin's first class, February of 21, is still there, Jarquez Hunter. And they tried to ruin him. I'm glad he's there. I love that kid. But Hugh Freeze brings in Philip Montgomery. I don't understand that. That is the worst offense. It's an embarrassment. And you think when you put pen to paper what you spend, and then you ask people to pay all this money in NIL, the fans, their patience is just, it's a very short window. And I don't believe in giving a coach a mulligan. I want him to win every game. Okay, that's all I ask for. But you should try to. That game Saturday night, the second half, Auburn, I think, had only thrown 6 passes through 3 quarters. That's just bad football. That's inexcusable. And it starts with Hugh Freeze. It's all on him. It's 110% top down. You can't blame, and I'm not saying anything about what you said, but good God Almighty. You can't expect fans not to be angry. If I'm paying to go to the best steakhouse in town, don't put a Swanson's Salisbury steak and mac and cheese dinner on my table. Expect me to pay that same price and give you a gratuity.
Rob, I think that's some fair points. And the thing about it is, I know I can't fully confirm this, but from what I've heard at Mississippi State, Coach Zach Arnett may or may not have taken back over the reins of the defense. Hugh Freeze might have to do the same thing with the offense heading into this Mississippi State game. I've heard that Zach Arnett has had his hand a little bit in the defense. Look at what Mississippi State did defensively over the weekend against Arkansas. They played a really, really good defensive game. They got to tune up some stuff on the Kevin Barbay offensive side of things, but they really played well on defense. Nathaniel Watson, Jet Jefferson. Jet Johnson. Both those guys had phenomenal games and shut down KJ Jefferson. They didn't let KJ Jefferson get out in space. Really, really good outing by that Mississippi State defense. So Hugh Freeze might have to do the same thing with Philip Montgomery. He might have to go in there and say, hey, look, I'm going to take back over. I'm going to take back over the offensive reins and let Hugh Freeze call those plays for Auburn.
Yeah, he supposedly before the game Saturday night against Ole Miss, it was said by the people on ESPN, Hugh Freeze said, what's got me this far is my play calling. I'm going to get back involved. And they were saying he was calling the plays when Robbie Ashford was in there. Robbie Ashford, one of the two, he can't throw the ball well. He can run, but when he goes in, the opponent knows he's going to probably run the ball. And when Peyton Thorne goes in, he can do both. If I was Auburn, I would just go with Peyton Thorne. But this dual quarterback thing, it never works. Why do people keep trying it, Mitch?
Rob, that's a really good, fair point. It's one of those things where you got to kind of just go with it. They don't really have a quarterback this year. They've got Robbie Ashford, they got Peyton Thorne. Who is the better quarterback out of those two guys? Either one of those guys have really just kind of stepped up. Honestly, if I was Auburn, I would go with what Kentucky did several years ago with Lynn Bowden. Just let Jaquez Hunter just kind of run the ball. If it works, it works. If it doesn't, it doesn't. Unfortunately, they've got teams on the schedule that remaining that can stop the run. Auburn's in a tough spot, and I've said that all along. If they could have beaten Ole Miss, things could have looked differently. Things with Mississippi State, they got that win over Arkansas, and now you start looking at the remainder of the schedule. Auburn's a very winnable game, despite it being on the road. Kentucky's a very winnable game. A&M's a winnable game. Of course, they'll beat Southern Miss, and then it comes down to the Egg Bowl. Mississippi State could still win 7 to 8 games this year, despite how they started.
Well, they could, and you look, here's Auburn at 3-4, and Zach Arnett may take back over the defense, but I'd be worried about their offense. I mean, I'd be wanting to get Will Rogers involved.
Well, unfortunately, Rob, Will Rogers was hurt on Saturday, and I don't know the extent of the injury.
Mike Wright played.
Yeah, his shoulder's out, so I don't know if he's going to play next week against Auburn or if he's going to be back for Kentucky. We don't really know, and so now Kevin Barbay is having to fine-tune his offense even more. So Mississippi State has had several hurdles to overcome with this offense. Defense can win you a game. They can get you bowl eligibility. It might not be pretty, but that pathway to bowl eligibility for the Bulldogs is there. There's a lot of optimism heading into this Mississippi State-Auburn game from the Mississippi State side that they think they can go in here to Auburn and get that victory. Rob, are you going to be making the trip down to Auburn?
I will try to. I want to go, and I don't care who Auburn's playing. It's just I have multiple things I'm working on. My plan is to go down to the game, yes. But I will say this, Ole Miss, they made, and here it is, I know this, Chris in Boxtown, Ole Miss made history by beating Auburn in back-to-back years for the first time since 1951-52. It's just unbelievable to lose back-to-back to Ole Miss. And the Mississippi, it seems to me like Auburn lost their mojo.
Yeah.
When they were up 28-3 in the 21 season at home against Mississippi State. And Bo Nix broke his ankle in that game. And they just have not been able to get themselves righted since then. But I look at the team. You've got Hugh Freeze wearing one set of clothing, other coaches, the staff wearing another, players wearing different socks and shoes. Get the hell out of here. You are the coach. You tell it. You're a team. You all dress the same. The staff wears the same stuff, and you wear what they wear. None of this me stuff. This is ridiculous. What I'm seeing out of Hugh Freeze right now, he needs to really don't listen to Gus Malzahn. I know they're friends. Block his number.
That's a fair point, Rob. And the thing about it is Mississippi State fans were there with Auburn fans last week. They were saying, okay, hey, the season's over. Zach Arnett's an idiot. Kevin Barbay's not that good. But now that they got that win over Arkansas, things have changed. I mean, really, truthfully, the mood around Mississippi State football program, you read it on the Twitter pages, you read it around the program. People are optimistic about, okay, hey, where does this Mississippi State team finish up? They can finish up 6-6. They can finish up 8-4. 9-3 is even a possibility. So there is some optimism with the Mississippi State football program. Auburn just needs to get over that hump and stop killing itself and stop shooting itself in the foot. Once they get that win, maybe it be over Mississippi State or whoever's left on the schedule. Once you get that one win here in the next 1 or 2 weeks, things kind of start looking up for Auburn, and the pathway to get 6-7 wins is there for the Auburn Tigers to get back to postseason play, but also get those extra practices. Because, yes, it might be to the Birmingham Bowl, it might be to the Music City Bowl, but you still get that extra 4 or 5 weeks of practice, which is so crucial for a young team like Auburn.
Well, I think people, if you look, when you have a bad offense, it wears on your defense. And the longer you go not producing, that defense breaks, and then you start to have dissension and fighting in the locker room and finger pointing about, look, man, we're doing everything in the world. You guys are off. It causes problems. Pick one quarterback. Now, you mentioned going to Jarquez Hunter, let him run the ball like Lynn Bowden did out of Warren G. Harding High School in Cleveland or Youngstown, Ohio, I think.
Youngstown.
Yeah, Youngstown. Warren G. Harding High School. That's where Ralphie went in Christmas Story, I believe. I just thought I'd throw that in.
Rob, that's the thing. I always love coming to the show because there's always some kind of random thing that you never expect. And here we are
talking savantism, okay?
But, Rob, I do want to ask you, and we'll talk a little bit, I guess, about the Mississippi State-Auburn game. But as an Auburn man, and I know that a lot of Auburn people in here, what are the top one to two restaurants that I need to hit up? I know Toomer's Drugstore, but what's a couple good restaurants there in Auburn that I absolutely have to hit up on Friday?
Well, bar-wise, I would say Harry's on the Opelika Highway, but they closed it down. It was famous for its toilet seats that were all splintered up and the pool tables and the beer. It's just an awesome place. But if you're looking for a really good place to go, and I think it's a lot of fun, I like the Hound. Okay. You need to make reservations. It's kind of like being out in Jackson or Moose, Wyoming or something, or Whitefish. It's this just awesome restaurant. It's got unbelievable selection of beers and food, and they've got buffalo burgers, buffalo, elk, all kind of now that's domestically raised because of the Boone and Crockett laws back 100 years ago against market hunters, but it's still really good. And they've got every kind of food you can imagine. But what they've really got that'll just knock you off your feet is the mac and cheese barbecue. Oh my God. It's crunchy with the bacon in it and stuff. It's so damn good.
I was told by somebody, and if your listeners are out there and they want to invite me to a tailgate, I am not opposed. But I've been told to go over when I get there to go towards the white tents of the right outside the stadium and just to walk through there. And I was told that people will very openly welcome you in the tailgates. And so to the Auburn people, I am very, very excited to explore for the first time ever.
Hey, look, you're going to have fun. You won't have any problem when you're down there. We're going to hopefully be able to get out here Friday afternoon. I may have a meeting that's popping up. Just depends on what time I can do it. I'm ready to get down there. Again, I'm kidding around a lot, but and I'm seeing stuff like Wesley in Fort Lauderdale. Auburn only had 26 yards passing going into the fourth quarter. Again, Mitch, I've raised 3 kids, and now I got a 4th one that went to Alabama, but we still love her. But listen, I watched a lot of elementary level football growing up with my kids playing. You can get 26 yards out there doing that just by fumbling the ball forward on a dropped pass. I don't know. This is you as hard as you work to make guys play well, I think you can work just as hard without realizing it for them to go backwards. Yeah. And looking at what I'm seeing around the SEC, Arkansas yesterday, euthanized Dan Enos. They fired him. I thought, looking at him, his past, tenure at Arkansas and Alabama and other places, he'd been successful. Why did it not work? Now I'm going to throw some rapid fire questions at you, Mitch. Sidelines here with us, folks, Monday through Saturday, as they say in the South, 8 to 10 a.m. And I love Mondays, my favorite day of the week. A lot of people are tired and groggy and worn out. I love it. It's like running a 5K or a 10K. So what you're telling me is you're gonna just wait until 5 minutes after the race gun goes off to start running. Hey, hit the ground running, man. I love Mondays. But I got to ask you this. They got rid of Dan Enos. They started 2 freshman tackles on the offensive line for Arkansas. Cody Kennedy was the offensive line coach at Arkansas for the 2 years prior to this year, and they had a really good offensive line. Kind of 30 seconds or less. How did this go wrong?
Ooh, I don't even know 30 seconds is enough. Really, truthfully, I think he just bit off too much he can chew. I think Coach Pittman believed in him, but he just wasn't the guy. Rocket Sanders has been out for, Rob, you can maybe tell me, 4 or 5 weeks now for Arkansas. So that takes one dimension out of the offense. Now they don't have the receivers. They don't have the talented receivers they had last year. So it's just like one of those disasters. It happens. Now Dan Enos has all the time in the world to respond back to student emails and to, criticize Arkansas fans as he sees fit.
Well, what do you think, though? 3 points. That was really, really ugly.
I think the Mississippi State defense was that good. I really, truthfully, that was the Mississippi State defense that I've expected to see all season long. I think Coach Arnett wanted to see his guys go out there and compete. Guys go out there and play with the Bulldog mentality. That Bulldog mentality is so dadgum important to Coach Arnett when he's trying to build here at Mississippi State. I think that he just really, truthfully, that was just the best defensive game that I've seen Mississippi State play in 2 or 3 years. It was a great outing. Now, if they can just get the offense under control and kind of get the offense rolling a little bit, things could really, really start to get really interesting for a positive way for the Mississippi State Bulldogs.
Yeah, you look – okay. Now, I got to ask you about another one, the Tennessee-Alabama game. That game, Joe Milton, he can't throw the short and intermediate passes. If not now, when? Okay, they jump on top 7-0. They're down there 2 more times inside of the 10, 12-yard line. And he throws way too hot a ball. And if he would have had a softer touch, they're up 21-0.
Yeah, Rob, and the thing about Tennessee is really, truthfully, I think that their coming out party is going to be this weekend against Kentucky. Kentucky struggles against quarterbacks like Joe Milton. Tennessee is way overmanned for Kentucky. Tennessee is a much better team than Kentucky. I do see them going into Lexington, putting up a lot of points. I see Joe Milton kind of having his game to come out of his shell a little bit. He didn't perform well against Alabama, but it's Alabama. It's at Alabama. Nick Saban had called upon the fans to show up and show out. So I think that Tennessee has a coming out party against Kentucky on Saturday. Then when you look at the remainder of the schedule, it's all very winnable. So we could be talking about a Tennessee team that finishes, maybe 9-3, maybe 10-2 with an upset of Georgia at Neyland Stadium on November the 18th.
Which is, by the way, the opening day of duck season in Arkansas. But I will say this. I think Audrey and I are going to head up to Knoxville. Cousin Mark, the biggest tailgate up there, Rocky Top, Tennessee tailgate report. Eat that brisket and possum innards, hog shanks, jowls, ears. All right, Mitch, question. I'm going to put you on the spot. Nobody knew it the other day when I asked. If you were driving through the Mississippi Delta, down, say, Highway 3, between Marks and Lambert and Vance, Friars Point, Jonestown, Clarksdale, and you stopped off at a convenience store, perhaps to get some petrol for your vehicle, some gas, and you went in there and you wanted a snack, what would happen if you said, give me a cool lickle and a listener?
Oh, Lord. See, I don't even know that. I'm not from the Delta. I'm a North Mississippi. I'm a North Mississippi Memphis guy. So I don't know what the Delta down there, their slang is down there for it. But I have no clue. I ain't gonna lie to you.
All right, a cool lickle is pickle juice frozen into a popsicle. And a listener, you ready for this?
You're a Charlie horse there.
That's right. Well, pickle juice is really good to marinate. Chef Roger Watson was supposed to be on with us Saturday morning. My friend that worked for Gordon Ramsay for 8 years. He's the best chef I've ever seen in my life. He uses, and he got stuck. His boss needed him for something, and I understand that. He works for him. He takes pickle juice and takes chicken and marinates the chicken in the pickle juice for 24 hours and makes the best chicken nuggets you've ever had in your life. I'll get him to explain that recipe. But he also says, tip from Chef Roger, when you put meat on, you got to let it rest. Okay. 5-10 minutes. He shows the pictures of cutting it immediately. The juice is all over the cutting block. 5 minutes, half the juice. 10 minutes, it all stays in the meat. Just remember that. All right, now, you know what a listener is? You ready? Because I know you're about out of time. A listener is a pig ear sandwich on white bread dipped in barbecue sauce.
I think I'd be out on that one. I think I'd be out on that one.
Oh, Mitch. All right. Look, gotta love your Delta trivia. This Delta trivia is brought to you by Miss Rubin's Rubs. White magic, black magic, seafood magic, and Creole magic. The penny profit market started in Montgomery in 1935 by a couple of Greek immigrants. And my friend Jay Evers, his partner Robert Landers, have that company now. And real quick, Billy Ray Valentine, William Halliday, he's our intern from Memphis. And I kind of caught him off guard. He forgot he was on this morning. Say sophomore at Auburn, writing for the Auburn Plainsman. And I said, I want you to jump on here, say hello real quick to Mitch Davis, and maybe you can help mentor young William, one of our writers. But Miss Rubin's Rubs, you can find them all over Alabama, about 1,000 grocery stores in Alabama and Georgia. They're spreading throughout the South. I'll just tell you this. Put that black magic. It's a crunchy rub. Put it on a piece of tenderloin. Just rub it like you're rolling in a sugar cookie in the sand. And then wrap it in thick slab country bacon and let it just go low and slow on a rotisserie, and you'll have one hell of a tenderloin. Again, this moment in great Delta, Mississippi Delta food moments brought to you by Miss Rubin's Rubs. William, we've got a couple of seconds here left with Mitch Davis, the MitchDavisShow.com. Mitch is from Memphis, now lives in New Albany, covers Mississippi State, Ole Miss, all things in the SIP, as he calls it. But he's from Memphis. And, Mitch, this is one of our young writers. I want to get y'all connected. He's a sophomore writing for the Auburn Plainsman. And I want to tell you something. I've known his dad since kindergarten, Bubba Halliday. Great guy. Vol for life. His blood, orange and white. And he at the last minute, the NIL deal for Auburn, he got $1.2 million and part ownership in a car dealership. And, William, you ended up at all. How's that NIL working out?
It's working out pretty fine, just fine. Yeah, I'm loving all the money I'm getting.
Yeah. All right, Mitch, real quick, before you go, I know you got about out of time. What advice do you give to a young writer? Because you've been to over 400 games in the last 4 years. You hit them hard, and you're coming down to Auburn this weekend. And William, by the way, you want to give him a few places to eat? I know them all, but you may know some cool places, Mitch. I told him to go to the Hound for sure. And now there's another restaurant I don't understand, by the way, the Irritable Bowel. I've never understood it. What is that place really that good, William?
It is. It really is. I had them they actually brought some of their food to one of the parties I went to a few Friday nights ago. They're really good. I think you should go when you get the chance to.
It's on Toomer's Corner, Mitch, right next to Moe's Barbecue and Toomer's Drugstore. I'll be down there this weekend. I'll show you where to go. William's a damn good writer, but go ahead, Mitch.
Rob, thank you so much for always having me on. William, I would just tell you, be yourself, man. Be yourself. I can attest to that. Rob knows I fought the good fight during COVID. A lot of people wanted to cancel football, cancel individuals. I said, damn those torpedoes. We're going to go full speed ahead, and that's kind of what I would give in advice. Rob, you were saying something about wrapping bacon. I almost thought you were going to say wrapping maroon and white. But hopefully we can hear that on Saturday as we head down to Auburn and get those cowbells ringing down there. I don't know if y'all allow cowbells in the stadium, but if you do, they'll be up ringing after that fourth quarter hit 0-0-0.
Yeah. Well, William, give us a prediction real quick what you think's going to happen after what you saw the other day. And, boy, it was tough. Are the fans being asked, Auburn and Mississippi State fans, is it true they're being asked to drive in single file formation in traffic with their lights on? But I digress.
No, I don't. I haven't heard that. But my prediction right now, I got to see if Will Rogers is going to play first. So I don't know the stats on him unless y'all know something I don't.
Yeah.
But if Will Rogers plays, maybe it can be a close game. But right now I've got Auburn if Will Rogers doesn't. And I think they'll probably beat them by a few touchdowns is my guess.
Yeah. All right, Mitch.
That's a bold take right
Hey,
there.
after this past week against Arkansas, might as well go with that. So
I'm going Mississippi State in a low-scoring battle, 17-14. I do think Mike Wright kind of figures his offense out. They've got to fine-tune some penalty stuff. They too many false starts against Arkansas. But I've got them wrapping it in maroon and white on Saturday to get one game closer to bowl eligibility, to get this program one step closer to get that bowl eligibility, and Zach Arnett to get another big win underneath his notch. I just don't think this will be a very high-scoring game. I don't think either team can pull away. I think it's going to be ugly, kind of like the Mississippi State-Arkansas game. But I have a feeling that Mississippi State's going to wrap it in maroon and white. Rob, thank you so much for having me on. Y'all follow me, Mitch Davis _8 on Twitter and at the Mitch Davis Show. Jumping off here, about to go interview John T. Edge from True South from the SEC Network. Going to be talking about everything in their new season, so very looking forward to that. And then Tanner Allen, the Mississippi State baseball legend, will be joining me on Thursday to talk about Mississippi State baseball, his career, and most importantly about his faith in God. So it should be a really fun interview. Really looking forward to having Tanner Allen come on the Mitch Davis Show and talk a little Mississippi State baseball.
Looking forward to it. And listen, when you talk to John T. Edge, a place he'd ask him about Fresh Air Barbecue in Jackson, Georgia. It's really good. It's on the way to Monticello. But look, Mitch, thanks for being with us. Jason Caldwell, Auburn Undercover, is going to be with us. William Halliday, the intern from the Auburn Plainsman. We're going to take a quick 60-second break. Be right back on Sidelines.
Unbelievably, every 2 minutes in our communities, a child is either bought or sold for sex. I am Ari Dickey, board member for the Nashville Anti-Human Trafficking Coalition. Join me and millions of others in our fight against human trafficking and for its victims by helping to educate the most vulnerable among us, our middle and high school students. Go to nhtcoalition.org, become a partner, and help keep our families safe, because none of God's children are for sale.
Browne back with us. Jason Caldwell, Auburn Undercover, and William Halliday, the intern, writes for the Auburn Plainsman. I think you met Jason, at Biddy and Bo Coffee down there. Mm-hmm. Jason, Alabama Sports Writer of the Year. Just love having both of y'all on here. Appreciate you taking time to join us. And let me say something real quick. If you're out and about today, Red River Ford Toyota, I'm wearing the hat. They are open Monday through Saturday, 9 a.m. to 6 p.m. Wynne, Arkansas, 45 minutes from Memphis. Over 700 cars, trucks, and SUVs on the pre-owned lot, and brand new Fords and Toyotas. Service department with 25 service bays. Great people there. Justin Wynn, the general manager. Rusty Howard, Greg Smith on the sales floor. And my friend John Dobbs Jr. from Memphis, part of the Red River Auto Group. They've been in the business for a long time. They'll deliver anywhere. They don't talk about, hey, we'll give you a deal. They're fair every day of the week, and we're proud to have them as one of our sponsors here on Sidelines. Jason, man, that was a tough one the other night, but if you're a recruit and you're looking at that game on TV, or if you were there in person, the energy and the just positive karma of a Saturday night game in Jordan-Hare Stadium ought to draw you in, and the opportunity for immediate playing time should help. But what were your takeaways from the 28-21 loss to Ole Miss?
Yeah, I mean, it's continued to be the same takeaway, really, that there's just not a whole lot of playmakers on this offense, but you got to do more than you're doing, and that's the thing. Right now, they're just not doing anything offensively, and Jarquez Hunter had the best game of the year for him by far on Saturday, which was a positive step for this team. But I went back and looked, and Auburn has 50 receptions out of its wide receivers in 7 games. That's less than 12 individuals this year in college football. And so I it's obviously they knew the need. They went out and tried to get some grad transfer wide receivers to try to help this group be competitive. Those guys have not been the answer. And so now you go and, okay, you got to go sign some really good high school wide receivers. And they've got 3 commitments still recruiting Ryan Williams, still recruiting Cam Coleman, both of whom were on campus over the weekend. You got to get more dynamic at wide receiver. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about that. Is that the only answer? No. But that's a big part of the answer for this team. And I think without them right now comes the other part that we talked about last week. They've got to get back to tempo offense. They've got to start going faster. And if it leaves the defense out there on an island, so be it. They were out there on an island Saturday night without going fast for 10 minutes, and Ole Miss doesn't hold the ball very long. And so I think you've got to start to find some rhythm on offense. Those two things lead me to the other point. You got to find one quarterback. I don't care who it is. It doesn't matter. Honestly, right now, it doesn't matter which one it is. One of those guys has to get the absolute majority of the snaps, in my opinion, and then you figure out what that guy does best and do it. To me, and I know you thought you could piece it together. It just hasn't worked. And so, and I honestly think that Peyton Thorne has done enough in the ground game with his legs running the football that right now he should be the guy moving forward for this team, because when they go tempo passing it, they move the ball pretty well and they're doing some things. I think you just got to find a way to start doing some of those things on offense. Yeah.
William, jump in here. Get your thoughts on it. You've been watching it.
Yeah, I agree with everything Mr. Caldwell said. One thing I will say, just when you play two quarterbacks, now it worked against Georgia and a bit against Ole Miss with Robbie and Peyton. But when you play two quarterbacks, you have a problem. And I think that Robbie should get more opportunities to throw the ball. I know it's not his strong suit, but I think he could make some plays with his legs compared to Peyton. But as of right now, I think they should stick to the run game. It's what they're best at, and then figure it out next season. But right now, I think they can get some confidence back if they throw it a bit more against Mississippi State. That could open up the pass game, especially with their next three games coming against State, Vandy, and Arkansas. Three teams that are under 500. But I think that could maybe give them some confidence, especially heading into the regular season against Bama. So,
yeah, I like that, Jason, about the compartmentalization aspect. You've got you're 3-4, but you're about to play three teams, and you're sub 500 yourself. But mentally, my wife Audrey, she knows football. She grew up with three brothers and three down the street, her cousins. She watched a lot of football, still does, living with me. She's like, Peyton Thorne's the best quarterback. Every time he's in, it seems like Auburn moves the ball. And you just alluded to it. He can do both. When they're going up tempo, he's really good. And he's the son of a coach. He's a team player. You don't hear a word. I don't see any. I can't remember the last time a dual threat quarterback thing has worked. What's the temperature on the sidelines right now with the offense, the defense? And we know that, Wesley McGriff is not coaching right now, but you got to keep this team believing. You got 5 games left. You need to make it 6. You need that extra practice.
Yeah, McGriff he didn't have a headset on, but he was on the sidelines Saturday.
I saw him,
He was there. I think these guys understand. The older guys on both sides of the ball understand that, look, this was going to be a long season. And they understand that they haven't executed. Now, the fans can talk about play calls and all those things. Plays are designed to work if you execute them, and they haven't executed plays. And they have to be coached better. Hugh Freeze said that right out of the gate. Look, we need to be coaching better. They do. It's an everything situation right now for these guys. But these are games where they had to do everything well to give themselves a chance to win. They did that against Ole Miss. They did it against Georgia. Really did it against Texas A&M, and then had a ton of mistakes that just didn't allow them to do it. LSU was the only one that wasn't there, and heck, they had the ball in the second half with a chance to make it a one-score game in that game. So it has worked to give them a chance, but they're not good enough to not capitalize on opportunities. We saw it Saturday night. They capitalized on some of those plays, but you got a muff punt on the ground. You got to get, for this Auburn team, they have to get that ball. You have a blocking it back on a punt return on the line drive where you would have had the ball at midfield probably. Instead, you're backed up, and those plays. Yeah, Cam Riley has has Jackson Dart in his sights and can't make a play on a guy that was, hey, Jackson Dart was really good running the football Saturday night.
Yes.
Those are things that this team can't make those kind of mistakes and expect to win games.
Yeah. William, you watch a lot of football. You're there. You're looking at the game just like we are. It is the first year for Hugh Freeze and that staff there. And there's only one player left from the February 21 class. That's Jarquez Hunter. Obviously, Harsin didn't get introduced until Christmas Eve as the head coach. So he missed that December signing period in all respects. You're a student at Auburn. What's the general conversation around campus? Protect your sources, what's on the record, off the record, you know that. And until you want to follow somebody, watch what Jason does in Auburn Undercover. You need to go meet him, take him to breakfast. I'll Venmo you the money to do it. He's one of the best because he's not going to give you a BS answer. So watch what he does. But go to that Auburn Undercover website, see how they're doing it. But talk about on campus, because I was in school for 6 years and I'm not a doctor. I loved it. Redshirted twice academically. Loved it. But let's talk about that.
Yeah. A lot of the talk is obviously around the quarterback situation, like probably 2.5 hours when I got there for the game, because that's when you have to get in for the student section. All I heard was just talk about quarterback, like who's going to play, Peyton or Robbie. And right when they announced, they put on the big screen that it was going to be Peyton. And you heard a few boos in the student section. And then once we saw Robbie come out, everybody was cheering. So that tells you something. But then at the same time, there's still some people heckling behind me that say, no, why are we putting Robbie in? He's not great. So there's definitely some division there. And then especially like when they both make good plays, they're like, yeah, Robbie, yeah, Peyton. But right now there's definitely some division in between those two. And that's the talk as of right now.
Yeah. Two things I've never done in my life. Left a game early and booed. Just don't do it. And wait till you have kids, you'll understand where I'm coming from. You can't leave. They may be getting beat 60-2 in a basketball game because the other team has a sixth grader who's really 19. But that's interesting, Jason.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think it's like most everything. It always goes back to the quarterback position. And like I said, this is far from just a quarterback issue. But that's the name of the game. That's what I understand it. I think William's right too. Robbie can throw the football. I just don't know that that's something they're going to do with him. I think it needs to happen if he's the guy, and I think he can be the guy. But you have to give him the entire offense. It can't be just we're going to run the ball up the middle every play. And people are like, well, it worked last year. Well, it did work last year. They won one of those games, and that was with a much more veteran group last year. I mean, remember, there's a lot of players off that team that aren't here anymore that you had to replace with transfers. Just because you got older doesn't mean you got better in some spots. Mm-hmm. That team had Colby Wooden and Derek Hall on defense. Team had a bunch of old offensive linemen that when they finally said, hey, look, let's just run the football, it fit what they wanted to do. This is a different team. Can you run it and probably move the chains and do some things? Yes. Is that going to be enough to win a bunch of these games down the stretch? I don't think it is. And here's the other part of it. This is year one. Year one means you got to do what you, in my opinion, we're going to be who we are. This is who we are for the future. I don't think they've done that yet. And they're not going to sacrifice wins and losses to do that. And I've seen people go like, oh, they're just playing, somebody insinuating that they just kind of been playing for the future. I think it's the opposite. I think they've sacrificed the future to play for the present. Because if you're playing for the future, you're playing tempo because it doesn't matter what happens in those games. You're practicing for what you're doing down the road. If anything, they've done the opposite. They have remained in the present to try to win games and sacrificed kind of preparing for the future by not going fast and doing tempo. So I think it's time to do some of those things. I don't think it's going to hurt you, but I think it does help you. Hey, I'm a golfer. No matter what you do, the more you do something, the better at it you get.
Yeah.
When you don't throw the ball, you're not going to get better at it. And right now, I think they need to throw it and work on it and do those things and prepare for the end of this year, but also get guys prepared. I mean, here's the thing. Unless they go out and get another transfer quarterback or play a true freshman, it's the same guys. It's the same guys next year. Somebody's going to have to figure out a way to start throwing a football, and there's no better time than now.
Yeah. And Walker White's coming in out of Little Rock Christian, but he'll be a freshman. I think he's coming in January.
He is.
And he had great things to say about you. You went out there, watched him, stayed at the house, got to, see him and talk to him. And I think he has a lot of promise, but he's a freshman. And William, you're a sophomore in college. Could you imagine when you were a freshman being, hey, you're going to be the starting quarterback at Auburn, even if you came in early?
I mean, it would depend on like the ranking for me if I were to start a freshman. Like for Tennessee, Nico Iamaleava, he's not starting right now. They're wanting to play the older guy right now. It's definitely better to get a year under your belt. But if it comes to that, like definitely like just kind of ease them in. If it was a freshman, get a few passing plays, some run plays. Don't expect too much from them. I saw that a lot as a Tennessee fan growing up with Harrison Bailey and all these other freshmen that started because of the quarterback troubles at Tennessee. So I definitely suggest just get at least 1 year under your belt as a freshman before bringing them on.
Jason, question here. Frank in Memphis. Can Auburn flip Cam Coleman and Ryan Williams? And I'm sure KJ Bolden will be on that list. These guys are coming, and these crowds are incredible. And I'm just going to ask you this question. They've lost games themselves before. I think people freak out when recruits come and the team loses. I think what I'd be worried about is if the fans were booing and leaving early and not showing that they had the team's back. That's the message that I'd be
correct. Yeah. Wins and losses right now for these guys doesn't matter now. Maybe it matters a little bit how it's happening, and that's why I think is another reason why I think you need to. The more you throw it, and then if you're not successful, then you can go look. Hey, we just don't have these guys. I think it would help a little bit if you start doing those things that you're going to show them for next season. But yeah, Cam Coleman was back on campus. This was his first game this year. And so I talked to him before the game. He came up to me and talked to me for just a second. Ryan Williams was back and stayed another couple of days. Had a chance to go and to USC, didn't go. Obviously, as a Alabama commitment, they played Tennessee at home, and he chose to come to Auburn instead. How much does that mean? I don't know. I think it's significant. And a guy that if he reclassifies in 2024, that's a possibility. If he does that, then you'll have one of these two guys as a potential guy to add to this class as well. And so I think Auburn has a shot. I would lean more towards Ryan Williams right now than I would Cam Coleman, even though Cam's committed to Texas A&M. But I think there's a chance with both.
Okay. William, I know you got to head to class, but appreciate you being on here with us, okay? All right. Jason, and that's the thing. These players, so many of them. And I got a question here. Auburn folks struggle to be optimistic for a QB from Arkansas. It came out in two parts. But, we think about Cody Burns out of Fort Smith. He came in as a 5-star. Kyle Frazier out of Springdale, I think Shiloh Christian, he came in as a 5-star. But now you've got Hugh Freeze coaching a quarterback, being involved. How much of a difference does that make? Personally, I think it would be a seismic shift in the positive way.
Yeah, and different types of guys.
Yeah.
Cody Burns and Kyle Frazier are both guys that were athletic guys that played quarterback that weren't necessarily throwers. You look at Walker White. Walker White's a guy that is a passer, but is also athletic enough to run the football. So they're completely different types of quarterbacks. Who knows how it works? That's why the more guys you get at each position, the better off you are. Because, everybody raves about Alabama's quarterbacks. What they don't rave about is the 10 guys who've been 4 or 5 stars the last 4 years who didn't work out. that's the reality of it. Look at Georgia. Georgia had really good quarterback recruiting over the years, and they displayed a former walk-on and won 2 national championships with them. Meanwhile, they're sitting here now, then they got 4-star, 5-star that aren't starting at Georgia. That's why recruiting matters, because all those guys, the one guy you get doesn't work out all the time. Leon Hart, Calvin Ashley, the 1 5-star offensive lineman you get doesn't work. Georgia's had those too. That's why you need more than one. You need a bunch of those guys. And so it's all about recruiting. It comes back to it. That's the lifeblood, and it's why it's vitally important right now for Auburn in this stage to do those things, because I keep coming back to the Nick Saban's first year at Alabama. You think about they didn't win. They weren't very good. They had a really good recruiting class, and boom, flip the switch pretty quickly. Yeah. It's possible, but you got to get better players.
Yeah. With NIL and the portal being what they are, the free market will work all this stuff out. But I go back to the cycles. You remember when Barry Switzer left Oklahoma? You had Gibbs. Gary Gibbs was the coach for like 7 years, whatever. You had John Blake 1 year, Howard Snellenberger briefly. They went through hell. And then they hired Bob Stoops in 99. The next year, they win the national championship, beat Florida State. You look at Alabama, 97 to 07, which includes Nick Saban's first year. They had 8 of those 11 years where they lost 5 games or more. They lost to Hawaii 1 year. They scheduled that game when they were on probation, like their bowl game, and they lost it. Nick Saban comes in that first year. If they don't win in the Weed Eater Bowl, they have a losing season his first year. 2012, my dad's like, that's the worst team I've seen since my freshman year at Auburn, 1950. He said, we lost to Wofford. Next year, Auburn's playing for the national championship. Stuff can turn quickly. Talk about just the players, you're around them again, name names or anything like that, but the will to win, and also the fans need to have anxiety. It says in the Bible, worries a wasted energy. I agree. Guys are going to transfer if they want to, but do we need to worry if you're an Auburn fan about a mass exodus after this season? I would think these guys are going, hey, man, I want to be part of something special.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think there'll be some departures, but I think a lot of it will be if they're not guys that are in the plans for the future. That's just the way this thing goes. I mean, there's going to be exits no matter where you are, and you're going to add new players. I don't think it's going to be as transfer portal heavy as it was last year, but it's absolutely going to be another year where they look for pieces in the portal, and this team's going to need that. I think there are some positives to come out of Saturday night. One of those was finally seeing Connor Lew play, and I thought Connor Lew was spectacular at center as a true freshman, a guy that we talked about is a building block for the future. Heck, he might be the building block the rest of this season, the way he played the other day. But you look at him, and Jaden Muskrat's playing right tackle, but I think he's probably a guard. Can you get him and maybe Jeremiah Wright on the field a little bit and start to see maybe the pieces of what next year could be? We've seen Xavier Too Tall Miller, a guy that will be back next year, kind of finding his footing a little bit. So all those things are important, I think, to get it and to do it. And yes, I see the message, recruiting matters, but they must be coached up. Yes, no question about it. Texas A&M's living proof that it's not just recruiting that matters.
Yes.
But I'll flip it. The switch is, if you don't recruit, then you have no chance. Yeah. It doesn't matter how much you can. It doesn't how much you can coach up guys. I mean, Auburn. Here's the thing: recruiting matters. They must be coached up. Auburn played the #1 team in the country to a 1-score game and had a chance to win the game with this same roster. So they've done a fairly good job of putting guys in position. But this is not a team that's going to go out and score 70. I think they were like, what do we have to do to give ourselves a chance to win? I think they thought this is how we have to play the game. I think now you have to shift a little bit more and go, okay, we got to be a little bit more aggressive on offense.
Yeah, here's another question from Rob Anderson, Shoney. Jason, worry about anybody who may transfer? I mean, that's sort of a open-ended question. And
I'm sure there'll be somebody. I mean, that's just the nature of this world. I think this is a group from the top down, though, that feels really good about the energy and the future of the program right now with this staff.
Yeah,
and so,
I didn't mean to cut you off. I'm sorry. I was going to say one thing that happens right after a loss. I mean, emotions just feel, and as you get away from it, you start looking at it and going, okay, how would I handle this if I were a member of this team? And you go, you know what? You can't just sit there and waller in your misery. You got to say, okay, this is what we can do. You just referenced it. I think that's the takeaway from this segment with you. You took this roster, which talent-wise, might be 13th, 12th, 13th in the SEC. It's certainly not what Auburn people are used to. And you coached them up to play Georgia to within a score, and be it not for Brock Bowers, you probably win that game. That's the kind of thing that you latch on to and say, okay, they're coaching these guys up. You see it, what you get to see in practice, but you're around the football complex. It looks like these guys want to be at Auburn.
Yeah, and the thing is that you start talking about, can they do a better job coaching? Absolutely, and I think Hugh Freeze would tell you they got to do a better job. When you start talking about the offense, defense, special teams, whatever it is, putting guys in the best position. I think they felt like that was the thing they had to do. Now I think you can shift a little bit. You have Mississippi State coming up, Arkansas, Vandy, New Mexico State, Alabama at home. This is the part of the season that's the most important for this team. Had you won one of these other ones, it would have been massive in terms of building for the future, all those things. This is where I thought this team would be. I thought they were 7-5 team. I thought this next stretch of games are games that they would win. They're going to have a chance to win those. Now the biggest question is, can you take a step forward? We haven't seen a step forward since going from Texas A&M to Georgia. It's just kind of been stagnant. Even though the defense came back last week and played really well, I thought, can you take a step forward offensively? This is the time when if you do that, then you're going to have a chance to win 4 more games at a minimum and give yourself a chance. That's the key. Starts on Saturday. Can you show steps and improvement on offense really for the first time in a while? And if you can do that, then you got like a chances to have a little confidence built for the first time in a while.
Yeah, you just take these games one at a time. I was texting with Tim Horton, and Tim, and I was texting him after Air Force got the win over Navy the other day. I said 7-0 and 5 to go, and he goes, "Not so fast, 1-0." He's just thinking about that next one. But I think listening to you today, because you have a boatload of credibility because of your 24 years of experience, you don't say things like, I don't tell my financial clients things just to make them feel good. I tell them the truth. If I don't think they should do something, I'm going to tell them, I like what you said. And I like this here. Kelly Leak. That's right. Saban ain't beating anybody with 2 and 3 stars. Got to have the players. And folks, you want to continue to get this kind of coverage and this kind of insight, do yourself a favor. Auburn Undercover, Jason Caldwell, one of the absolute best. Let people know how they can keep up with you, follow you, and look forward always to having you on here, because if you were a lawyer, I'd go to court with you against the Supreme Court any day of the week. You know your stuff.
It had to be about a few certain subjects, because I couldn't do much with anything else. But you can check us out at auburnundercover.com, part of the 24/7 network, and can also follow me on Twitter or X, whatever you call it, at ITAT Jason.
All right, Jason, thank you so much. We'll have a great week. We'll take a quick break. We'll be right back with hour number 2, Sidelines.
Red River Ford and Toyota, located in Wynne, Arkansas. If you're in the market for a new or used car, truck, or SUV, call, go online, or drop by and see them. Located 45 minutes from Memphis, go off the 4-city exit on I-40 and go north about 15 minutes on Highway 1. Easy to work with and still believe in customer service. If you live out of town, they will deliver your vehicle to you. RedRiverFordToyota.com. Just see what they can do.
Strengthen your seed zone this spring with quality tillage equipment from House Industries. Located in Cherry Valley, Arkansas, House Industries specializes in manufacturing superior equipment that will minimize your downtime and keep you working in the field. To ensure the highest quality control, all design, fabrication, and testing takes place in a 99,000 square foot manufacturing facility located right here in the heart of the Delta. Locate your nearest House equipment dealer online at houseindustriesinc.com.
House Industries, breaking ground.
Sidelines with Rob Browne. Talk sporty to me.
All right, Rob Browne back here with you. Franz Beard in the bullpen, going to jump in here with us. GatorbaitMedia.com, the Iron Duke, the daily thoughts, the one final pithy thought. Show prep is what I call it. He writes a lot of great stuff. I want to say this hour brought to you by Tom Martin's Body Shop. Tom Martin's Body Shop, located at G.E. Patterson and B.B. King, downtown Memphis. Easy to deal with. Tom's been there. God, they've been there 46 years. People in the front office, everybody in there, the paperwork, insurance, and everything like that. It's easy to work with these people. He's got 12 of the best employees you'll find anywhere. They'll replace your windows, body work, paint jobs, everything. Tom Martin's Body Shop, G.E. Patterson, B.B. King, downtown Memphis. Known Tom 28 years. Met him training for a marathon one time, him and Mike McGinney, hardcore and a diehard Mississippi State fan. So if you wanted it, I bet you could go to Tom Martin's Body Shop and say, wrap it in maroon and white. You could probably do it. But Franz Beard, I love it when I say, how you doing? You go, just another day in paradise.
Well, it is. It's another day in paradise, buddy. I mean, it's going to be 82 degrees here today. The sun is shining. It's beautiful. And we're going to have an 84-degree Florida-Georgia game, which is also nice. It's nice because I remember, like, for example, in 1975, when in the old Gator Bowl, where there was no drainage and it rained, Florida loses on an end-around touchdown pass. Gene Washington threw it. Oh, my gosh. What a bad day, because our corner, Henry Davis, who had not given up a touchdown pass all year, hits a puddle that's about this. That's actually almost like a like a small lake, and slips and falls down, and they get the touchdown pass, and Florida loses that game 10-7. That's when Doug Dickey made his famous comment, before you can win games, you must first avoid losing them. Okay.
Deep thoughts.
Before you can win games, you got to score more points than the other guy.
Yeah.
Rule number one.
Yeah.
Florida is undefeated in history. In every game, we've outscored the opponent.
Yep.
That's deep thought now.
Yeah.
That is really deep thought right there. So, if you basic philosophy of football, score more than the other guys and you'll be happy.
Yeah. Yeah. Franz, I got to say something here. Hi, Rob. Barnwood Brenda here. Okay. You see that set behind me? I feel like the weather guy, see the SEC set in the background?
I do see it.
Barnwood Brenda is my friend down in Batesville, Mississippi, that hand carved this. I think that's out of cedar, and you notice she's got all 16 schools in the SEC. And what's the big one that really stands out?
Florida.
Hey, folks, welcome to Texas, home of the Texas State Fair.
Oh, they got that there? I was just looking at Florida. I'm sorry.
Hey, but look, it's really, in fact, one of my friends looked at it and he goes, man, that looks like a chocolate cake. That is beautiful. But anyway, Barnwood Brenda, I've asked her because Chris Lee, one of my guests last week on the show, Vandy Rivals and the Southeastern 14, said, where would somebody get one of those? I said, Barnwood Brenda in Batesville, Mississippi. She hand carves these things out of, she's made me tons of furniture, end tables, huge 6-foot tables for the den. I got them over here at the hunting lodge. And I want to tell you what, man, it's a lot of fun to watch something like this be made. But she does the barnwood furniture. If you've got a hunting lodge at your house, you want some cool furniture, it's all hand carved from wood on their farm down there in North Mississippi. So what's she saying here? We shouldn't be afraid of hills and valleys. They give everyone a shot at the top. I like that. But anyway, Franz, you could get a giant state of Florida map made as well. But I love this because, the SEC Texas coming in. I've asked this to everybody. When we get to SEC Media Days next year at the Omni Hotel in Dallas, we're going to come in. There's going to be a giant flashing neon sign that says, "Howdy, folks. Welcome to Texas." And the SEC will be in the bottom right-hand corner in small print. That's what it's going to be. It's going to be a lot of fun. But this thing back here is awesome. And Texas already just big. They're gonna take up a lot of the oxygen in the room, friends.
Well, they are, because I think they've got a shot at making the playoff this year. If nothing less, they'll be in the New Year's Six games, because it's going to be either Texas or Oklahoma winning that. And of course, they got to worry about getting in, because Alabama has just complicated matters in a very, very big way. Alabama is now 7-1. If they win their last 4 games, and let's just say they go to the SEC championship game and beat an undefeated Georgia. I know people are saying that's impossible, but it's not. Georgia could lose a game between now and then. Really is possible that they could. But let's say they beat an undefeated Georgia to win the SEC. Do you think for a second they're not going to put Georgia in the playoff? And the answer to that is, the answer. It's no, hell no, and 1,000 hell no's after that. Yeah. Which would mean you got 2 SEC schools. I'm assuming Michigan's running the table, okay?
Yeah, probably.
Michigan, I think, is the best team in the country. I really do. As much
Michigan?
Yeah.
Wow.
Oh, you watch them, and their personnel is just that they can they're the only team out there that can out personnel Georgia. And they do it in just a very, very, quiet, unassuming way. They just come out there and stomp you. I mean, it's not like all these high fives and, look at this, they're not glitter boys like they have out at Southern Cal. These guys just come up there and they line up and they say, okay, we're going to stomp you. And they do. Yeah. They have a quarterback that's the most underrated player in America. And he might be other than Brock Bowers, he very well might be the best player in America. And that's J.J. McCarthy.
Yeah.
I watched him a couple weeks ago, and they think they've got him, and he does a 2-hand chest pass forward. That's his only throw, because he doesn't have time to bring the ball up to his ear, and he just does a 2-hand chest pass forward. And I've seen him do a backhand pass like this forward, because he's going to make a play no matter what. And they have the best defensive line in the country, unquestionably.
Michigan.
Yeah, Michigan. Wow. I think they win the national championship this year. I think they win the national championship, and then Jim Harbaugh takes off for the NFL, which is like giving the NCAA the finger, which everybody in the college football needs to do.
Yeah. Well, let me throw this one at you. You're talking about Georgia. Ole Miss goes down there for the first time since my dad was a sophomore at Auburn, 1951 and 52. Back to back, they beat my Auburn Tigers. I'm getting a lot of sympathy, a lot of pity. I had a lot of texts Saturday night after that Auburn Ole Miss game from my Ole Miss friends. Most of them just said, hottie, hottie, hottie. Congratulations. I mean, but look, they're a pretty damn good football team. Yancey Porter's on here, Rebel Yell Hotline. I want to talk about Ole Miss. I'm going to say it now. I think they go on the road and stun the college football world and win between the hedges.
They could, but and the other thing is this: Tennessee could do it as well.
Yeah.
But I'm going to tell you something that's interesting, and we're really overlooking it, and that is what happens. Let's just throw something out there. What happens if Florida comes in there and shows up in a way we haven't seen, and somehow or another controls the football and doesn't have the false starts and all the other stuff? If you look at the time of possession in both the Utah and Kentucky games, which Florida lost, the Gators dominated the time of possession, but they didn't score points because they had false starts and other stupid stuff. What happens if Florida gets in there and controls the ball and then doesn't do the stupid stuff? I'm not saying it's going to happen, but I wrote it today. Remember Tug McGraw's great line in 1973 for the New York Mets? He says, "You gotta believe."
Yeah.
And then when we went to the Phillies, he and Pete Rose were with the Phillies, and they took the Phillies to the World Series. That was the key word again. The key words again. You gotta believe. Well, here's the thing about Florida, and this is the thing that people tend to forget. If the other team believes, and if you get one team that comes in there thinking, we got this, and the other team comes in there believing, belief can offset superior personnel, which Georgia has. And I mean, there's no question Georgia has superior personnel. I mean, Florida is getting there. I don't know if you saw this weekend, but L.J. McCray, the best defensive lineman of the country, committed to Florida. His teammate, he's a 5-star. His teammate is a 4-star corner. The Gators are going to get him. They're going to get the number one offensive guard in the country, who's at IMG. You can count on that. And I believe they're going to flip Jeremiah Smith from Ohio State to Florida. He's down at Chaminade in Hollywood, Florida. I think they're going to wind up with a class that's going to be holy moly. Everybody's going to be saying, you better watch out for these guys. Yeah. But in the that's in the future. But right now, they have to be that team that comes in there just totally believing, that, I mean, they got to be almost in a catatonic state of belief that, it's right here, it's all in front of you, and there's no distractions. You don't hear anything in the air. You don't read the print and everything. Because if you look at, if you look at what the people are saying on the nationally, I mean, my gosh, Florida might as well just forfeit the game, because 2-0 sounds a whole lot better than losing 88-0, which is what everybody's kind of predicting. I wrote this today. I said, besides the folks in Las Vegas, you won't find anyone on the planet who considers himself reasonably sane that thinks the Florida Gators stand anything more than a puncher's chance to spring what would easily be the biggest upset of the last 2 seasons. And then I go on and say, here are the reasons. Georgia is stronger on both lines of scrimmage. Georgia has better personnel at nearly every position. Georgia is deeper, and its backups are better than Florida backups. Kirby Smart is a better coach than Billy Napier. Kirby Smart's assistant coaches are better than Billy Napier's assistants. Georgia knows how to win. Florida knows how to shoot itself in the foot in big games. Georgia won't give Graham Mertz time to throw. Georgia won't let Montrell Johnson and Trevor Etienne loose. Georgia will load the box to cover Ricky Pearsall, Trey Wilson, Arliss Boardingham, and blanket whoever else Florida lines up as receiver one-on-one. Georgia's offensive line will open up bigger holes in the Florida front than Kentucky's ever did. Georgia's running backs will bowl over Florida's linebackers. Georgia's wide receivers will easily play pitch and catch with Carson Beck against the U.S. secondary, and Georgia knows it will win while Florida will fold at the first sign of Georgia dominance. Well, that's what everybody's thinking. I mean, Can you disagree with any one of those points? And the answer is, if you do,
Really?
then people are going to ask, what have you been drinking all weekend, Rob Browne?
Yeah.
I know you're out there at the hunting lodge. You probably have a still in the backyard there.
We do. MJ put a still back there 4 years ago, and we serve our corn liquor in mason jars. No, friends, you're making great points. I want to get into some more stuff that you've got, because I'm telling you, folks, newspapers, we're losing a lot of them. And friends, I'm going to tell you something, what I love about writers. My friend Mike Donahue wrote for the Commercial Appeal for a long time. He now writes for the Memphis Flyer. Hopefully I'm going to have him on later this week. He's a sports fan. He's a great Irish Catholic, went to Christian Brothers High School, see him at Mass a lot. He's a great writer. He finds a lot of dives and, these cool stories about people, about bars and restaurants off the beaten path. Like, the Betty Davis Grocery. You'll love this place on Highway 7 between Holly Springs and Oxford, Mississippi, right by Abbeville. You go up, go back up off the road, back up in the pine trees, especially on the way back. Well, on the way to Oxford and on the way back, they've got great barbecue and ribs and all. One of the great lines of all time was heard by my friend Lonnie Lewis Smith from Macomb, Mississippi. And Lou, one time Lonnie said, Browne, I heard something I didn't think I'd ever hear. I heard a woman say to her son, spatula, I got 2 words for you. Behave. You got to love it. The Betty Davis Grocery, man. Check that place out. That's off the beaten path.
Lewis Smith. I wonder if that's the same Lewis Smith that I played basketball with in Macomb.
I bet it was. He's in the bond business up in Memphis. Great guy. I call him Mr. Ole Miss Rebel. His horn doesn't honk on his car. If he's honking at you, it goes, hotty, hotty, hotty.
That could be the same Lewis Smith that I was friends with during our 3-year exile to Mississippi back in the 60s. But yeah,
very likely is. But friends, I got to ask you another one now. You're talking about the Florida Georgia game, world's largest outdoor cocktail party.
Mm-hmm.
That's going to be an awesome game. And we're talking about Jimmy Page. The Jimmy Page in Surrey, Weybridge. That's a suburb of London. I've stayed there before. Ole Miss will win out. I'm telling you, this Ole Miss team, they started off slow. I talked to Yancey Porter. Always give credit where it's due. Shameless plug here. Not shameless. Catch him tonight, Monday, 6 p.m., Sports 56 WHBQ in Memphis. Also Super Talk, Mississippi. I said, what's going on with Ole Miss? Why can't they run the ball? Said pretty simple. Jake Thornton, the offensive line coach, is now with Hugh Freeze at Auburn. They ran a zone blocking. Now they're trying to do man. Well, after they lost to Alabama, I think Ole Miss went back to some zone and some man. Is this maybe the best job Lane Kiffin has done in his 4 years as the head football coach at Ole Miss?
Well, he's 6-1, and there are a lot of people who said that he'd have trouble winning 6 games. So he's 6-1. So he's already met or exceeded all the expectations. They have, Quinshon Judkins is the last 3 ball games has been running like a guy that says, "Okay, I woke up from my nap. I'm ready to play now." And you put him into the attack and combine him with the mobility that you have with Jackson Dart and the change of pace guy in Ulysses Bentley, who I think is one of the more underrated players in the SEC. And they're really, really good. I can't say they're a great team, but they're really good. And Pete Golding is coaching like a guy that's been released from prison. Let's face it. I think he's doing a better job this year with what he has to work with at Ole Miss than he ever did with all those studs he had at Alabama. And sometimes we wonder about assistant coaches. They go to a new job and all of a sudden it's like, whoa, where did that come from? sometimes it's just a matter of getting in the right environment, getting into a place where you feel free. I think that every coach who's an assistant at Alabama, whether he's actually in the room or not, feels like Nick's in the room at all times. And that's what happens when you get a guy that everybody proclaims is the greatest of all time. And let's face it, he's got 6 national championships. The next one he's got 6 at Alabama, and he's got 1 at LSU. He's got 7. Nobody else has got 7. I think he'll get his 8th before he quits. And I think, and people better not write him off this year. We've talked about this on this show, Rob. This keeps reminding me so much of 2015 when Alabama lost to Ole Miss of all people that year, and then just kept winning and winning and winning. And that was with Jacob Coker at quarterback. And there's a lot of people who thought that Jacob Coker couldn't be a better quarterback than I could. And I'm a step or 2 slower than I was in my prime. It's only been since I was 22 years old. It's only been 50 years, but anyway, this Alabama team keeps reminding me more and more of that team in 2015 that everybody had written off, and suddenly these guys that everybody wrote off, they win a national championship. How'd they do it? Yeah, exactly. This is a really good football team, and people better not underestimate them. Yeah. By the same token, we were talking Ole Miss. People better not underestimate Lane Kiffin's ability to call a ball game. Yeah, and you got to understand, Lane Kiffin, I think, is just salivating at the opportunity to get that one big win that I think he really doesn't need his career validated. But I think that there are people who believe it. And I think that knowing Lane, I think Lane wants to prove it to the people, to the doubters, that, I can coach in the big games too. Could he go in there to win in Athens? Here's the interesting thing about it. Georgia's got to play Ole Miss. Georgia's got to play Tennessee. Georgia's got to play Florida. Those are 3 ball games that everybody is saying everybody would expect Georgia to win. But those are 3 games that Georgia could lose if the stars align the right way. If they come in, if Joe Milton plays like he did in the first half against Alabama, Tennessee could beat Georgia. I promise you he could. Yeah. But, and he went into the locker room at halftime and all of a sudden realized, I'm Joe Milton. It was like, what was that great line from Talking Heads? My God, what have I done?
What have I done? Look at me. What have I done? Oh, and David Byrne. Yeah. Is that one of the best bands ever or what? Wouldn't you agree?
Oh, they were so fun in concert.
Yeah. And you remember the knock in the 70s, getting off topic. It's okay. We love talking about music and food and everything. ELO is not really good live. Have you seen any of the recent performances with Jeff Lynne and ELO with the London Philharmonic Orchestra at Wembley Stadium? They're off the charts. As my kids would say, OTC. That's not over the counter, folks. That's off the chain. Jeff Lynne and that bucket hat that he wears, unbelievable. How about Janis Joplin in Beaumont, Texas? LSU's going to bust the tide.
Prom date.
That was Jimmy Johnson's prom date. And was he from Port Arthur or Beaumont?
They were both in Port Arthur. That's where they grew up.
Port Arthur, yeah. But that's where the Sabine River is. And the Louisiana and the Texas line are right out there in the middle of it. But
there's a place called there's a little town in between there called Orange, Texas, and they have a place called Red's. And if you've never been to Red's, you do not know. And it's in Texas, but I want to tell you what, you want Cajun food, the best Cajun seafood you can possibly eat, go to Red's. I promise you.
Well, I'll tell you one thing. If you're ever in Baytown, Texas on business, I was down there not that long ago. David Hager and I were out there on about a 6-day business trip to go call on clients all out in Texas, and it was unbelievable. We're at the I don't know, the whatever hotel, the Hampton Inn, I think there. We asked, where's the best place around here to get some real authentic Cajun food? Because you get down there on I-10 over to Houston, Louisiana considers that, West Louisiana. So we go across the causeway, Franz, where all the oil refineries are. Go across there to Deer Park, Texas. And we find this dive they told us about. There's a white shack. A good wind would have knocked it over, called Gidry's Cajun Seafood. We ordered the boudin balls and the alligator bites and gumbo. And it was absolutely incredible. And I went in there to talk to the chef just to say what an incredible meal it was. And he was from Ecuador. And I spoke Spanish to him. I said, ¿Cuántos años hace que vive en los Estados Unidos? He said, sí. I said, ¿Cuál es su país? He said, Ecuador. I said, bienvenido a los Estados Unidos. I figured it was, some guy, Hokey Guy Jean's cousin south of I-10. It's some of the best food I've ever put in my mouth. All right, hold these thoughts because we've got Wes Moore going to join us from ESPN 103.7 The Buzz up in Little Rock. Franz Beard, GatorRepMedia.com with us. Again, we'll be talking. We got one more segment to go on this Monday. We're going to take a quick commercial break and be right back talking more college football. Janice Jobson was, that's amazing. Jimmy Johnson's prom date, both from Port Arthur, Texas. We'll be right back.
Red River Ford and Toyota, located in Wynne, Arkansas. If you're in the market for a new or used car, truck, or SUV, call, go online, or drop by and see them. Located 45 minutes from Memphis, go off the 4-city exit on I-40 and go north about 15 minutes on Highway 1. Easy to work with and still believe in customer service. If you live out of town, they will deliver your vehicle to you. RedRiverFordToyota.com. Just see what they can do.
Strengthen your seed zone this spring with quality tillage equipment from House Industries. Located in Cherry Valley, Arkansas, House Industries specializes in manufacturing superior equipment that will minimize your downtime and keep you working in the field. To ensure the highest quality control, all design, fabrication, and testing takes place in a 99,000 square foot manufacturing facility located right here in the heart of the Delta. Locate your nearest House equipment dealer online at houseindustriesinc.com.
House Industries, breaking ground.
Sidelines with Rob Browne. Talk sporty to me.
Rob Browne with Franz Beard and Wes Moore over in Little Rock. ESPN 103.7 The Buzz has a great show Monday through Friday. Starts at 10:05 a.m. Central. Get that app and put it on your cellular iPhone or Android or whatever other device you use to listen and communicate with other Earthlings. Wes, man, 7-3 Mississippi State over Arkansas. Harken back fond memories as an Auburn man of 3-2 Auburn, Mississippi State in 12 innings in 2008. Man, but already they're making changes. Sam Pittman, I love that guy. I hope he saves his job, but I hate to see people get fired. But Dan Enos is gone. What are the Hogs going to try to do from here on out?
That's a good question, honestly, because the choices on the staff, they just weren't there to replace Enos. And so I'm curious to see what's going to happen. Kenny Guyton, the wide receiver coach, has been named as the interim play caller. And as far as I know, and I'm curious to hear from Sam Pittman today at noon, why Guyton and what kind of experience Guyton has calling plays, because you look back at his resume, he's always been a wide receivers coach. And so, I don't know how much better it's going to get, and what can they do, in 1 week? They had the off week this week. So it gives them 2 weeks to try to figure out what they can do offensively, because what they've been doing the last couple of weeks hasn't been working. It was atrocious Saturday. And teams have figured out Arkansas. I mean, you think about it, this is the same offense that was putting up 30-plus points against BYU, against LSU on the road. And then all of a sudden, Texas A&M came with the blitz, and Arkansas could not pick it up, and they couldn't figure it out. And so that's been the recipe for the last month. You blitz Arkansas, you're going to get to the quarterback, and they don't have the type of offense or receivers that will make you pay for blitzing. And we're seeing it week after week after week. Teams bringing the blitz. Mississippi State it blew Arkansas's mind. They would blitz a linebacker, and the defensive end would stunt with that linebacker, and they couldn't pick it up. And KJ was under pressure, and they just never made Mississippi State pay by coming with the blitz. And it was terrible to watch. It wasn't fun football. You think of all the explosive offenses out there, and it all starts with the quarterback. And Arkansas's got a quarterback that's been around forever, but he's not playing well. I mean, KJ, the difference in the game, both teams got in the red zone. Mississippi State's backup quarterback made a simple throw for a touchdown. Arkansas's quarterback rolls out of the pocket, has a receiver open, and he throws it behind him and into the ground. Incomplete pass, settled for a field goal. And that was it. I mean, just nothing the rest of the game that was that showed you any resemblance of an offense.
From what I saw of it, and the only thing I've seen is the replay of it.
Why? Why did you go back and watch?
I have this bad habit, and it is a bad habit. I will go back and watch every single SEC football game. I mean, those are years of my life. And I say years of my life because if you add it all up, all the time spent during one season and multiply it with all the seasons I've been doing this, and it's years of my life that I can't get back. Unfortunately. But I and sometimes it's one of these self-loathing torture times, where you just got to say, I have not inflicted any punishment into my mind or body all week long. I'm due some. So, okay, here's Mississippi State and LSU. That'll do. That'll work just fine. I looked at that and I thought, and tell me if you think I'm wrong here, Wes. It looked to me like KJ had zero confidence, whether in himself, in his coaches, and in his teammates. And you can tell when somebody's doesn't have the confidence in himself. You can tell when a guy doesn't have confidence in his coach, but he's got confidence in himself and his teammates. You can tell when a guy believes in his coach but doesn't believe in his teammates. And here we have KJ, and it looks to me like all three. Doesn't have confidence in himself, doesn't have confidence in his offensive line, for example. And I don't think he's got any confidence. He may like Sam, but does he have confidence in Sam? I don't think so.
Well, I don't think he had confidence in Dan Enos and the plays that they were calling. There's this one particular play where Arkansas, they run that bubble screen to the wide receiver, and they ran it a couple times. And they set up Mississippi State where the receiver that's blocking for the other receiver fakes the block, takes off running. He was wide open. Yeah. And KJ didn't throw it. And it's a mystery to why he didn't throw it, because that's a play that you're set up. That's a shot play. You know that play when you call it. That's the guy you're going to. And he didn't throw it. And everybody's like, at the stadium, you could hear the murmur when you see a guy wide open and the excitement, and then all of a sudden he doesn't throw it. And you're like, what's going on here?
Yeah.
And so slant was there all day. The slant. And, you right. I think just about I'd say 75% of Arkansas pass plays, somebody runs a slant route, okay? And you can, maybe the guy runs a slant is there just to clear the safety. I don't know, but he's wide open all the time. And what a novel idea it would be to just flip him the ball once or twice and see what happens, because I think he'd run forever. But it's there all the time.
Yeah, the slant's there because the linebackers are blitzing. And isn't that just almost like the fundamental rule? You replace on offense the blitzing defender, and that space is wide open.
Yeah.
Dude, you're just preaching to the choir. And there's so many questions about this offense and what's going on. And maybe they can figure something out, but now, you got more questions, Who's going to run this offense? And, that's the next thing. How do they respond the last 4 weeks? Because I saw this, I thought this, the game Saturday was Chad Morris bad. It was to that level. And, there are the group of fans that were ready to move on, want Pittman fired. Then there's a group that believes that, and I think this way too. He replaced a lot of coaches in the offseason. He did a good job on defense. I mean, the defense has gotten so much better. They were the worst defense in the SEC, and now I think they're up to 5th in the SEC. Well, you did your job there. Good job. You fixed the defense. Do you give him another chance to go out and hire the right offensive coordinator and fix this offense? That's the Hunter Yurchek question right there. Do you have faith, confidence that Sam Pittman can make the right hire and fix the offseason, fix the offense in the offseason?
Yeah. Well, here's a question from Connor in Houston, listening obviously on the interweb. Who will Arkansas hire to replace Dan Enos? Any names come to mind, Wes, that you're hearing? Maybe I know Enos. I thought he would work because he's worked before at Arkansas, different coach. He's been at Alabama. It worked. But I'm just curious if you have any names, like Connor is in Houston.
No, and I'll be honest, I haven't even started worrying about that because I think the first question has to be, who's the head coach? Does Sam Pittman even get that chance? Or are you just starting all over, and then the question needs to be, who's the next head coach? So
I think that's the one to be.
Yeah, no names are popping up, or I haven't even gotten that far, honestly. No.
I'll throw a name at you that a guy that if you want to juice up your offense in a hurry, go see if Dan Mullen would be willing to leave ESPN, because Dan Mullen could do that in a heartbeat. I look at KJ and I think that's a Dan Mullen type of quarterback. That's a guy that Dan Mullen could turn into the next Dak Prescott.
Yeah, guys, I'm honestly a little surprised that he didn't go that route and try to find somebody that can come in and help fix the offense in the next 2 weeks and get something going that they can be successful offensively. Because, like I said, they got a good defense, and you can't just and I know they're not thinking this, just throwing in the towel the last 4 games, but it's just curious to me why they took somebody from within the staff that, as far as I know, doesn't have any play calling experience. And maybe he does somewhere down the way, and Sam has confidence in him. So I'm sure that question will be addressed today at noon.
I mean, do you think a coach like Dan Mullen would give up what he's doing? He's been a head coach to come back to be an offensive coordinator. Golly, that would be somebody. Franz knows him. We've all seen his work. Go back to his days at Utah, what he did with Urban Meyer. Urban Meyer would not have had him on staff at Utah and at Florida if he wasn't a damn good coach. Now, I mean, people criticized him at Florida. Franz, again, you had a front row seat there about what he said about recruiting and all, but You
He did
cannot
all right
argue with his
guy.
do what?
He did all right with that Tebow guy. He was pretty good.
No, I'm talking about recruiting. Remember, toward the end of his Florida time, he caught all the hell. But y'all brought up a name. I mean,
he's a great assistant. He's a great assistant, and you put him in a head coaching position in a place where you don't have to get 5-star players.
Yeah.
Arkansas is not going to get 5 stars. It's just not going to happen. You may get 1 or 2 that come out of your state when that happens, but Arkansas can't go into California like Alabama can and get the top quarterback in the state of California and who's a 5-star and get him to come. Ain't going to happen. But Mullen can get a guy like KJ Jefferson and who's a low 4-star or a high 3, however you want to put it, and turn that guy into the next Dak Prescott. That can happen.
Wes, I mean, Arkansas doesn't lack money. That's for damn sure. They've got a boatload of it. You're going to be at the Touchdown Club today in Little Rock. By the way, I've never asked you this question. I know a good bit about the Monday Morning Birmingham Quarterback Club in Birmingham, of course. And they have a lot of charities they raise money for. Last year, they raised over $1.62 million in Birmingham. That's incredible. Little Rock's got a ginormous Touchdown Club. What is their number one or a couple of their charities they raise money for? Because we got a lot of listeners out here, and they want to support what Wes and what Little Rock does.
Honestly, I don't think they do anything. I've never heard them talk about a charity of choice. I don't think they're raising money for charity. I think they just raise enough money to survive and to pay all the speakers. I did hear a great story, and this is separate. Peyton Manning came, and spoke at the Touchdown Club, and I was curious what kind of money that cost to get Peyton Manning to come to Little Rock to speak, and they didn't have to pay him a speaker's fee. They just had to make a donation to his charity. And I thought that was the coolest thing. Peyton Manning and his reputation went way up in my book. I mean, I'm a big Peyton Manning fan, but when I heard that, I'm like, man, that is just what a gesture. How incredible is that?
Well, and I remember one time being at the Touchdown Club in Memphis, and Jerry Jones came, and he did the same thing. He said, give it to, I believe, St. Jude. But the Touchdown Club in Memphis, I'm going to be there tonight. Charlie Strong's going to be the speaker. That'll be great. But they do a ton of great work. You got to pay those speakers. Another reason to like Peyton Manning. And he married a Memphis girl, and he comes to Memphis a good bit. So that's not a bad thing. But Wes, I got to ask you, you're on Fox Sports Channel 16. You do a great job. We got all these TVs over here at the farm in this big house at the Cherry Farm. We get the Little Rock stations. We get the Memphis stations. I got to tell you, man, Little Rock's got way better looking people on TV than Memphis. I don't know what's going on with Memphis, but you watch on the sports. You're covering all over the state. It's just, and my friend Dudley Dawson, who comes on with Wednesdays, Hogville.net, he does his Fearless Fridays. He's trying to hit all 200 plus high schools in the state. Well, we're talking to some of the folks over here in Parkin this weekend. We were over here and talking about the Wynn High School, and not the only one, but they lost. The high school got demolished when that F3 tornado hit March 31st, about 4:30 in the afternoon. The football field was that sprint turf stuff, guys, and Franz. It ended up in Dyersburg, Tennessee. That's how powerful that storm was. But they're right now, Wynn High School has a football field. They don't have a high school, but they got the football field rebuilt. But you know what, Wes, I hate is these kids are scattered now all over the place from Wynn High School. Have you done a story yet on the schools recovering? Because high school football is really special, and it's really special in the state of Arkansas.
Yeah, we've done a news story about them in the school and stuff. We have not done a football story. Wynn is a good almost 2 hours from here, and they're not honestly in our viewing area.
Sure.
That's Memphis. You're
Yeah.
lucky that you're able to pick up both Little Rock and
I know I
Memphis
am.
stations. You got something going on there, but you probably shouldn't be saying it out loud. I don't know how you got that all figured out. That's a
I know.
cool deal.
Keep that quiet just among 60,000 listeners or whatever it is.
Yeah, no doubt. So no, I have not been to Wynn and done a story on that, but it's a remarkable story. And man, I pull for those guys every Friday night when I see their scores. I'm hoping that they can get this thing turned around and start playing some better football. But you think of everything they've been through, just to be out there playing on a Friday night, that's an accomplishment. So
it is.
I'm very happy for those guys.
And let me tell you something, Franz. You watch what Wess does, Fox Sports Channel 16 in Little Rock. Towns like the Stuttgart, Arkansas Rice Birds, and that's a town that might be the most prosperous town in the Delta. They've got Carrier, air conditioning. You've got Riceland. You've got producers, rice mill. But Wes, what is a typical Friday night like for you? Franz, you think about this high school football, but Friday night and Saturdays for you are what, 15, 18-hour days, I bet.
Yeah, I get there at the station at 1:15. As soon as the radio show's over, I go straight to the TV station. I start producing the 9:30 show and the 10:30 show, and I basically get done with that, do my 5:30 newscast, which we're previewing all the big games, and then I head out. I go shoot a game. Usually it's something really close by, and I'm there for about 30, 40 minutes, get the highlights. I come back and edit those highlights. And then I start bringing in all the games from all over the state. Like this past weekend, we had 25 games that we had highlights of, and I'm bringing them in, putting them in the system, writing the highlights, and just getting ready for the show. It is nonstop. Honestly, it is nonstop. The best time I have a chance to rest is when I'm riding in the car to my football game and back to the station to catch my breath. And then it's on. We do the 9:30 show, come back, and I got 30 minutes to get everything tied up for that 10:30 show. And at 11:05, guys, I go back and sit at my desk and catch my breath and go, wow, what a hell of a day.
Well, I got to give you credit having just for a couple of years as a TV reporter before I got into the finance business and then doing radio and podcasts since then. But it's the local coverage. It's like watching an artist paint a masterpiece. You can get the national picture, but the local. And when you go and you cover and you see these people, you do a phenomenal job of what you do. And it's true, Franz, repetition is the mother of all skill, and you do a great job. And we are blessed to have you on the show.
Man, I appreciate that. I'm glad. I love doing it for the kids, and that's why I tell our photographers, this may be their only chance to be on TV. Let's get it done. Let's get a good highlight. Let's get their name right, and let's put them on TV and create a moment they'll never forget. And it's truly all about them.
It really is.
I having been exiled to Mississippi for 3 years during my formative time in the 60s. And, I'll tell you how big a deal high school football was. Your parents put on coats and ties and women wore their dresses to go to the high school football game.
Yep.
I mean, that was a big, big deal right then. We come back to Gainesville and there we are with, we're having to move some games to Florida Field because the local stadium, which seats 10,000, can't hold all of our people who want to come to see the Gainesville High School Purple Hurricanes play. Those were wonderful times, and it bothers me now that we've got so many issues that in so many places, people don't go to the ball games. Now that's not the case in a place like Arkansas. These small towns, it's still a big deal. It's in the cities that it seems to have lost its luster. But you get into the small towns, as you were talking, like Stuttgart, Arkansas. I guarantee you, when the team plays a football game. Everybody's there. It's, if you're a thief, it's the time to go rob houses because everybody's at the ball game, I mean, and here's what really bothers me, Rob. It bothers me that I see people trying to de-emphasize football. There is no sport that has taken more people from abject poverty into something special than football. You can go with Jimmy Johnson. You go with Barry Switzer, guys who, those are guys who played at Arkansas, grew up in abject poverty. Then you go to the kids these days and times, that have done it. And we fail to forget that only about 1% ever have a shot at the pros.
Correct.
So what happens with the other guys? Well, the ones that were smart and got a degree go back and they become teachers, they become coaches, they become business people, and they raise up their community. I've talked to so many kids over the years that they're the first one that ever got a college degree. They're the first one that ever went to college, much less got a college degree. And they've gone back into their communities, and all of a sudden they're successful and they're hiring people and giving people jobs. We do not need to de-emphasize football at the high school level or at the college level. It does more to raise. It has done more for eliminating racial problems because kids play on teams together and they learn to work together and they learn to love each other. What a concept that is.
Yeah.
They get on these teams and all this stuff happens, and they go out in the communities, they start businesses, they hire people, etc. We cannot have a de-emphasis on football, whether it's at the high school or the college level, because it is the greatest factor in eliminating racism and eliminating poverty that's out there.
Yeah. And I'll tell you something. We were sitting around the fire pit Saturday night talking with some of the folks that work around here, that live and work these farms, that work for the big farm operations. And this whole weekend, they'd been over there for high school football and homecoming stuff over there at Cross County High School and Wynn High School. And we all had this discussion at about beer 30 around the fire pit. High school football matters. You're right. It pulls people together. You go down to Batesville, Mississippi as an example. Hello, Barnwood, Brenda. South Panola High School. You probably heard of that. They put a few players out. That's a big-ass deal down there. Big deal. North Panola, Sardis, that's where KJ Jefferson is from. About 15 minutes from the Vaught Hemingway Stadium. You go to these little towns, and folks, there are a lot of little towns in Florida. I know you think of Miami and you think of the big, Jacksonville really is a lot like Memphis. It's a ginormous, it's one of the largest small towns in America. Jacksonville is like living in the country. We know what came out of Jacksonville. Give me 3 steps, Leonard Skinner, 38 special. Tom Petty played football with you, Franz, middle school in Gainesville High School.
Use Supply, we won the county championship.
Damn right. See, here's the thing.
You couldn't have done it without 2 great tackles, Tommy Petty on the right side, me on the left.
Franz Beard, I love it. But look, here's the thing. As Wes said, and he had to go. He said he had to get off early today. He got on the elevator and he lost us. But Wes is a great guy. He was recommended by another great friend of mine. He said, you need to get him on your show. I think his wife's in TV too. But, Wes, did you hear what he said? He goes, I tell our photographers, get it right. Because this young man, this young woman that you're going to be doing a story on, get their name right, spell their name right. This may be their only chance. And you know what? They're going to remember it, probably ask for a copy of it, and they're going to save that forever. So, do your job and do it right and take pride. Pain is temporary. Pride is forever.
the greatest piece of advice I ever got was the late great Jack Hairston hired me.
Oh,
I was
wow.
I was working with the Gainesville Sun, and I got a call from him one night. The phone rings, and I answer it, and he says, "Franz, yes, sir." Jack Hairston. I said, "Hi, Mr. Hairston." He says, "Want to work for me?" He was with the Jacksonville Journal at the time. I said,
Wow.
"Sure." He said, "Pay you $25 a week," which was big money in the 60s.
Yes.
He says, I said, "Wow." He says, "Someone will call you tomorrow and tell you what you're going to do." That was my entire interview. 30 seconds and I was hired.
Don't you love it?
Started a relationship that was in a lot of ways like almost like a father-son relationship. That was he was my mentor. But when he took me under his wing, the thing that I always remember and I hold dear to my heart is Jack said, "Your job is to get the story." He said, "The score is rarely the story." He said, "The score is the byproduct of the story." He said, "It's the people who make the story." He says, "That guy who makes the catch, who maybe is playing his heart out because his dad died that week, or that guy that is playing at All-American level because he wants to be the first one in his family to ever graduate from college, and he appreciates his scholarship." And Jack told me these things, and it stuck with me. And that is the job. And I tell kids today who are coming up as writers, I said, your job's the story, not necessarily. Here's the thing, Rob, you think about it. By the time I've got a story written, let's say it's done the interviews, everything like that, come back, it's 4 hours later when that story comes out on the internet. Used to be, it would be the next morning. But by the time I've got that story out, everybody knows the score.
Yeah.
Everybody's seen the highlights on ESPN, the big plays. What they don't know is the story behind it all. You know, that's where it is. And see, it's like the story Saturday in Tuscaloosa. What happened to Joe Milton at halftime? What happened to Alabama at halftime? How did you have such a complete pivot, 180-degree pivot?
Yeah.
That you had in that for both teams. You got Tennessee at the top, and all of a sudden it was like that. It totally reversed.
Yeah.
That's the story. The score is irrelevant. The story is what went into it. Why did this happen? Why did Joe Milton suddenly do this? What did Kevin Steele do to adjust that all of a sudden his defense, which couldn't stop anybody in the first half, they gave up 295 yards in the first half. How is it that Kevin Steele's defense in the second, did Nick Saban come in there and say, okay, here's what I would do. You do this, this, and this, or was it all Kevin Steele, or did somebody else do it? But the players suddenly, whatever they did, the adjustment was made, and my gosh, it was totally different. But you got to get the story. And this is what a guy like Wess Moore does. He goes out there and as he was talking about, on a Friday night, and he's out there doing all this stuff. And in a matter of minutes, he's putting together, okay, I'm taking this, 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 and this, and putting it together into a 5-minute segment on TV.
Yeah.
And it's an amazing job that he does.
It does. And I mean, unfortunately, we've run out of time. But, Franz, what you just said about Jack Hairston, the score is merely a byproduct of the story.
Yeah.
That's the smartest thing I've heard on here in a long, but you're right. It's the stories about these people, and people forget that you're dealing with people, and they're what matter. Hey, look, man, Franz, talk to you in just a sec. I got to say, thanks so much for taking time out of your Monday to join us. Wess Moore, Jason Caldwell, William Halliday, Mitch Davis, all of our guests, our viewers, our listeners, everybody. This show's growing in leaps and bounds. We're blessed to have you. Most often we see the face of Christ in the least among us. We live in the greatest country in the history of the world. Remember, Rome burned while Nero fiddled. Wake up, look around you, pay attention, folks. Go out and bless others. We're all blessed. Give back, make a difference, follow through on positive things. And so we are out of here until tomorrow. Everybody have a great day. We got a packed show tomorrow. More talk about college football. And yep, pickle juice is the best for getting rid of a hangover. Thank you, Wesley, down in Fort Lauderdale. Appreciate you. We'll see you tomorrow.